CNBC TV 18, celebrating 16 years of business leadership.
Former chairman of the TRAI, Rahul KHULLAR, says the call drop issue is overhyped and there is no need for external intervention as market competition as well as self-interest of telcos are enough to sort out this mess. Speaking exclusively to Shireen, Rahul KHULLAR also stressed the High Court might not issue an order on the 6th of January. Here's a small excerpt from that interview.
Number one, from a national policy perspective, we should not get carried away about this call drop business. Yes, it is a problem, and yes, it is a major problem in metropolitan areas. But have you heard of anybody in rural areas complain about call drop, which is where most of these connections are? One. Second, and that's the last comment I want to make on this, if you believe in markets, then as long as there's competition in markets and telcos have a self-interest to preserve and there is necessary regulatory action, that will resolve the problem on its own. Don't hype the issue up so much.
Whether or not the order stands is going to be a matter that the court will decide on, but the implementability of the order, what kind of challenges do you foresee there?
See, Shireen, what is going to happen is the High Court is not going to decide something on 6th of January. They will take it up for preliminary hearing because presumably the telcos are seeking a stay on the order. So that's the first thing which the High Court will have to decide on. Either the regulation is stayed, or coercive measures under the regulation are stayed, or some such order is issued which reduces the efficacy of the regulation. If that were to happen, we are back to square one. So that is, the High Court is not going to hear two parties to a dispute and suddenly issue an order. The real issue is that if, for example, the High Court extends the proviso that no coercive action is taken, then you can judge for yourself how effective that regulation will be in achieving anything.
Well, that's the former chairman of the TRAI talking about the current controversy where the TRAI has issued an order seeking compensation from telcos for call drops. And of course, that matter is now in the Delhi High Court. Transfer pricing issues continue to plague Microsoft and the software industry, and policy reforms have been a mixed bag in 2015. That's the word in from Microsoft India chairman Bhaskar Pramanik. Speaking exclusively to CNBC TV 18's Prerna Barua, Pramanik spoke about a range of issues ranging from tax uncertainty to Microsoft investing in India. Listen in.
When we talked about designing in India or developing software in India, there's still been lack of clarity in terms of the tax situation, the transfer pricing situation, and that continues to plague companies like Microsoft.
Oh, yes.
And while the intent has been there to move it in the right direction, unfortunately, we've not seen that action actually take place. So therefore, that is really continues to be one area of concern for us, the transfer pricing mechanism which the government of India and the ability to do things like advanced pricing agreements. It's been very, very slow, especially for a company like Microsoft. So we would like to see that speed up. I think in most of the other areas, if you have a forward-looking department, we are finding that people are looking at making the right kind of decisions. Then we think it becomes much better. So I think it's a mixed bag at the moment. Intent is very clear, progress in certain areas, but in a whole bunch of other areas, I think we're still finding bottlenecks. The speed and execution and implementation is a challenge. But we are hopeful, we're positive. We continue to invest, and we'll continue to do that.
What kind of investments will Microsoft pump in, in the new year, and where would we see these lie?
If you're a software company, your data centers are actually your factories.
Oh, yes.
And we set up 3, and we made a considerable investment. Perhaps I'm not allowed to talk about the actual investment size, but this investment is perhaps much more than what the investments made by any of the companies you just referred to.
Tax uncertainty continuing to haunt investment climate. That's the word coming in from the Microsoft India chairman. Precise, reliable and environmentally conscious. These are the hallmarks of Germany, its people and its industry. But the country's reputation and national pride took a severe blow when the biggest fraud in the automotive history came to light at Europe's largest car maker and Germany's symbol of pride, Volkswagen. Farah Bukwala Vora reports on what has come to be known since then as the Dieselgate scandal.
Once the poster child of Germany's post-World War II era, today the enfant terrible of the global automotive industry. Volkswagen's scandalous saga began on 18 September this year when United States Environmental Protection Agency found that Volkswagen cars sold in the US were equipped with a cheat device that could detect when the engine was being tested and then report reduced emission values to improve results. The cheat devices fitted in Volkswagen's EA189 family of diesel engines showed reduced nitrogen oxide output to comply with US standards during regulatory testing, but the cars were actually emitting 40 times more on-road. This meant Volkswagen was putting public health at risk, considering nitrogen oxide causes smog, which can lead to severe respiratory illness. Soon, Volkswagen admitted that it had planted cheat devices in 11 million diesel vehicles around the world, in addition to 500,000 cars in the US.
Our company was dishonest with the EPA and the California Air Resources Board, and with all of you. And in my German words, we have totally screwed up.
As a direct result of the scandal, Volkswagen's group CEO Martin Winterkorn resigned and was replaced by Matthias Müller, former Porsche boss, who was given the mandate to salvage the brand. But this was far from easy. Firstly, Volkswagen faces fines of up to $18 billion in the US. Secondly, after the US, other countries such as the UK, Italy, France, South Korea, Canada, Germany and India had begun independent investigations. To contain the crisis, Volkswagen then announced plans to refit up to 11 million affected vehicles in a rectification program that is the costliest ever. Brand-wise, nearly 5 million cars at Volkswagen, 2.1 million at Audi and 1.2 million at Skoda were recalled. Geographically, 8.5 million vehicles were recalled in Europe and 0.12 million in South Korea before India also made its recall. Globally, the scandal also spread to 90,000 3-litre V6 engines in some Audi, Porsche and Volkswagen vehicles. In India, the Ministry of Heavy Industries mandated premier testing agency, the Automotive Research Association of India or ARAI, to begin its probe. ARAI's report found that diesel models of Volkswagen and Audi were emitting 5 to 9 times more nitrogen oxide in on-road tests than what lab emission data showed. Thereafter, a show cause notice was issued to the car maker. In its independent report, Volkswagen India clarified that it had not installed cheat devices in cars in India and contested the ARAI's findings. It, however, proceeded to voluntarily recall 3.2 lakh cars to carry out technical updates.
By this time, Volkswagen found itself in a new emission web globally, this time for understating carbon dioxide readings in about 800,000 vehicles in Europe. Now this is a severe offence because carbon dioxide is linked to global warming and the company had been benefiting from tax breaks for lower carbon footprint in several countries. But as the investigation progressed, it was found that the carbon dioxide emission scandal affected far fewer vehicles than initially estimated.
The most crippling impact of the Dieselgate scandal was certainly on Volkswagen's financial health. Since the scandal broke, Volkswagen's market capitalization has eroded 40%, Sales have fallen in key markets and the company reported its first ever quarterly loss in 15 years.
For Volkswagen, the road to resolution is going to be a perilous one. The company has set aside $7.4 billion to deal with the crisis, but Credit Suisse pegs the total cost of the scandal at a whopping $87 billion. Reason why the company's borrowings have already gone up to $21 billion and a stringent cost-cutting plan is in the works. This includes a cap on future investments, the slashing of its R&D budget by $1.1 billion, possibly shutting down its Phaeton factory in Dresden, and perhaps even parting ways with its high-end luxury brands Ducati, Bentley and Lamborghini. In Mumbai, Farah Bukwala Vora.
Well, the Volkswagen scandal in 2015. But it's not just drought and poor irrigation that's behind the severe hunger and starvation being witnessed in parts of Bundelkhand. In our special series, What's Ailing Rural India, Archana Shukla explores the third major contributor to the crisis, illegal sand mining, that's turning large tracts of fertile land into barren waste.
Red gold. That's what this sand is called. On one hand, it maintains ecological equilibrium by holding groundwater. On the other, it's a highly priced commodity used in construction. Large-scale urbanization and rapid construction has turned sand mining into a thriving business. An illegal industry that by some estimates is worth as much as 10,000 crore rupees. The results have been particularly acute in some regions of Bundelkhand. Here, rampant sand mining has caused major lifeline rivers like the Betwa, Ken and Baghen to dry up.
अभी तो हमारे यहाँ सिंचाई की व्यवस्था है, धीरे धीरे यहाँ पानी की समस्या पीने की होने वाली है। तो ये सबसे पहले इसमें अवैध खनन पर भारी मात्रा में रोक लगनी चाहिए। पानी को लेवल की कलेक्ट करने की क्षमता बालू में होती है। यदि बालू के खनन को इस तरह से रोक दिया जाए तो ये बालू पानी इकट्ठा करेगी और जमीन का लेवल का जो पानी है वो ऊपर आएगा।
That's why activist Brij Mohan Yadav filed a public interest litigation which resulted in the National Green Tribunal issuing a directive banning illegal sand mining in October 2013. The order also directed authorities to put new guidelines in place for sustainable sand mining. But not much has changed on ground.
13 लाख क्यूबिक मीटर में अवैध खनन उन्होंने पाया है और जिसको एनजीटी में उन्होंने प्रस्तुत भी किया है। यहाँ पर केवल 8 पट्टे धारक हैं जिनको वैध माइनिंग करने के लिए परमिशन मिली हुई है। लेकिन परमिशन मिली हुई है, एनजीटी ने कहा है कि केवल मजदूरों से खनन होगा, मशीनों से खनन नहीं होगा। इसके बावजूद भी पट्टे धारक सीधे मशीनों से खनन कर रहे हैं।
We saw evidence for ourselves at an allegedly illegal mining site at the Ken River. Licensees who get licenses to mine sand in these areas to mine only up to 3 meters go as deep as 40 to 50 meters and mine sand from these rivers. We are at one such location here, which is a location for an illegal sand mining in Banda district. While we were on our way, these areas were guarded by gunmen. Somehow the news that we were coming here had reached before us, and hence most of the sand mining activity was put on hold. Sanctions allow mining up to a depth where water is not extracted, but trucks heavily loaded with sand and dripping water were a common sight here. The administrative machinery, however, says that mining activity is under check.
जो भी शासनादेश है उसके तहत हम लोग कार्रवाई करते हैं। अवैध जो माइन से उसको हम लोग रोकते हैं, रोकने का प्रयास भी करते हैं और इस तरह का कार्य हो रहा है। हमारे क्षेत्र में जहाँ तक की बात है यहाँ पर अवैध नहीं हो रहा है।
Locals in Bundelkhand claim the illegal sand mining nexus involves government officials, police, corporators, builders and miners. And as this illegal trade thrives, fertile stretches of agricultural land are being stripped bare and wasted, driving parts of Bundelkhand and its inhabitants to drought, hunger and starvation. With camera person Lalit Sen and Sunny Paswan, in Banda district, Archana Shukla.
CNBC TV18, celebrating 16 years of business leadership.